Welcome back to the second part of my BT9 limited review series, where today we'll be looking at all the uncommons you might come across in your pre-release packs. If you haven't watched my previous video, I'd suggest going back and doing that now so you can see all the commons available to you, as well as get a better understanding of my ranking system. With that being said, let's dive into the rankings. Now the first few cards on this list are all Digitama, and in fact are the only Digitama in the set. I'd just like to say before we start that Digitama are always good in sealed, aside from certain special ones like Mother D-Reaper. Even with the new sealed rules that allow you to place level 3s in the breeding area without a Digitama present, a Digitama still represents a way to draw an additional card with your level 3 Digimon without affecting your main deck. So even with no abilities at all, a Digitama is not going to get an F rank. We start off today with Koromon at C. This boost is actually going to come up occasionally, but still not that frequently for it to be anything noteworthy. Next we have Puyoyomon, again at C. Like Koromon, there exists a few ways to get this boost online, and can potentially be a little more flexible than Koromon 2. Tokamon X is by far the least likely boost of all the Digitamas, and chances are you could go a whole pre-release without ever seeing it online, and so is stuck down at C as well. Motimon is another C rank, more likely to get online than Tokomon, but ultimately worse off than Koromon or Puyoyomon. Goromon may have a boost that's very unlikely to occur, but it's one of the most useful ones out there. Raising your blocker's DP on your opponent's turn can cause them some real problems. Ultimately, this is still a C though. Our last Digitama is Pagumon, and this one jumps all the way up to B. Every Digimon has access to this boost, and it can be used to get safer swings with your main attackers or to win fights against suspended Digimon. It does cost you a card in hand every time, so you can't count on it for every attack, but is a very nice effect to have underneath your Digimon. Moving out of the breeding area, we come to Agumon X. There are enough cards to find with Agumon that it earns a C rank, especially being able to find the all-important X antibody card that's key to unlocking a lot of the effects in this format. It could definitely be better, but still a fine consideration. Gilmon X unfortunately gets an F. With nothing to digivolve on top of, its power all comes down to its inherited effect and stats, and with its inherited having very little synergy and a play cost of 4, it's hard to ever justify running this card. Greymon X antibody is basically the same as Garurumon X from the previous video, and also gets a rank of C. Technically, Greymon is slightly better as there are more Greymons than Garurumons in the set, but not by much. Gabumon X, like Garurumon X, is a slightly worse version of its Greymon line counterpart. Less hits than Ugu X, but still a valid choice, I give it a C. Jumping up to level 6, we have Suijinmon, which gets a solid B. There's enough cards with the machine and cyborg types that you can use this as effective removal Digivolution, and it has some not unrealistic synergies to potentially contribute to. Nefertimon is one of the two armor forms we mentioned last time, and oh boy does it deserve its A rank. Armor Purge is an awesome ability in the aggressive arena of sealed, and being able to reduce DP every time it swings makes it a very real threat to your opponent's board. Not only that, its alternate cost can actually come up, giving it the chance to be a free Digivolution. Pegasusmon is not quite as good as Neferti and only receives a B. It's an expensive evolution, but provides you with an Armor Purge shield and prevents a security check when digivolving, making up for the lower tempo and being a solid card for the middle of your curve. Angelwomon X earns a B, nicely rounding out the decent Gatomon line in this set. A sizable body with a good tempo ability that just gets even better with the X antibody synergy, perfectly reasonable level 5. Raijinmon falls a little short of Suijinmon, as its ability just doesn't have as many potential deletion targets, but is still good enough to make B. Kakuomon X is a more fringe version of Gabumon X and Agumon X, but is still playable and sits at C. Pungiamon X is another C rank card. It can help if you're in a position where you're forced to run Leomon X, but otherwise is very replaceable. Akuomon X sits at C as a mostly average level 5. If you have X antibody, it can be a very strong card, but otherwise is just an okay body. Fujinmon falls behind its companions at C. Unlike the others, it doesn't have the ability to remove a target when evolving. It can potentially enable attacks at higher level Digimon, but then you're losing out on an attack too. Dorumon gets a B. It's very easy to make this card active, and it serves as a good way to dig through your deck. It also synergizes with quite a few other cards too. Megadramon is a decent tempo evolution and gets a B. There's not many cards to profit from its inherited, but it's still a dual color with good DP that pops a body. Dracmon is just an F. It's very clunky to do much with this card and its limited number of targets, and at only 1k DP, it just doesn't feel worth it unless you have a dex heavy card pool. Dextorugamon also sits at F. It's really just a highly costed vanilla in this format. Sure, there are ways to evolve it from trash and a retaliation blocker can stop attacks for a turn, but is not likely to pull off and requires a more optimized deck to be good. Dextorugreymon is in pretty much the same boat as Dextorugamon and unfortunately also gets an F. Again, it's a fine card if you can evolve it from trash, but your chances of doing this are low, so for the most part it's just going to be an overcosted level 5. Daigo Nishijima actually manages to get a B rank here. While it won't often gain you memory, the Raidenmon package ensures there are a lot of black level 6 Digimon even at the lower rarity levels. Turning them into blockers for a turn is a huge improvement and a tempo stall for the opponent, making Daigo a pretty helpful card to have in a lot of decks. Maki Himekawa also earns a B rank, because again there are just a lot of dual colour black cards in this format for her to both find and reduce the evolution cost of. She adds consistency to your deck and speeds up your evolution and is definitely worth running in a good number of lists. Meiko Mochizuki doesn't quite live up to the strength of her fellow uncommon tamers and only earns a C. She can find you a Digimon fairly well, but other than that doesn't do too much. Atomic Megaloblaster is a very clear A rank removal card. It can really do some damage to the opposing board even if it's just taking out one big Digimon. There are a couple of ways to boost the DP of its effect too, which can take it to even higher levels. X Antibody cannot really be given anything less than an S rank. It might not seem like the most powerful card, but this is the X Antibody themed set, and as such it has an incredible amount of synergy. This card significantly boosts the power of your deck, enabling lots of effects you wouldn't otherwise have access to, as well as the occasional extra attack. Add in a nice security effect and you're going to want to pile as many copies of this card into your deck as you can. X Program seems like decent removal at first, but only gets itself a C. It's not too easy to guess online, and while it can potentially be a blowout for the opponent, the sheer concentration of X Antibody cards in the set means they're very likely to have at least one Digimon that will survive the destruction. And that's the last of the uncommons. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you found it useful. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to see the rest of the series. Thanks for watching.